Hello and welcome to today's webinar on assessment and feedback in Brightspace. This is part 3 of our assessment mini-series, and we're excited to have you with us today. A couple of things to note: the Zoom Q&A box is open for any questions you might have throughout today's session. A recording of the session and the slide deck will be posted in the Brightspace community, and we'll also post a Q&A document with questions received throughout the webinar with links to additional resources that might be helpful. So let's get started with today's agenda. We'll start off with some quick introductions, and from there we'll discuss some tools in Brightspace you can use to assess and provide feedback to learners. I will show you how to use these tools through a demonstration, and then to finish off we'll have some discussion questions and time for questions at the end. So my name is Renata, and I'm a Customer Enablement Manager at D2L, and I have my colleagues Heather and Christina here with me today as well to support the webinar by answering any questions that you might have in the Q&A. So I'll just take a quick moment to clarify some terms. D2L is the company, Brightspace is our product, a learning management system, and depending on where you work, your institution may call Brightspace by a different name. And in addition, our Brightspace community is a hub of resources where you can connect with other Brightspace users and seek out additional information on Brightspace. And we'll put the link in the chat for you to join the Brightspace community as well as the higher education faculty group. All right, so in part 1, 2, and 3 of our assessment mini-series, we looked at sort of in part 1 and 2, we looked at 3 core assessment tools in Brightspace and focusing on how to create those assignments, quizzes, and discussions. And in this session, we're going to be looking at the next step, which is once learners have actually engaged in those assessments, how do you assess and provide feedback to them? So here are some tools in Brightspace that you can use for evaluating learners, providing feedback, and monitoring progress in Brightspace. Today, we are going to focus on the 3 top tools, and the number 4, 5, and 6, we're actually going to be exploring in part 4 of our assessment mini-series called Evaluation in Brightspace, and that will be next month in August. So we'll share the link at the end if you'd like to join us for that session. So after assessments are created and learners have submitted their work in Brightspace, let's talk about how you can actually assess learners. And so Brightspace offers multiple ways for instructors to do this. So the first way is the instructor can actually visit the assessment tool itself to view the learner submissions and assess them from there. So actually going to the assignments tool, the discussions tool, the quiz tool, and looking at the submissions from there and evaluating. The next option is if you're using the inline display of accessible activities. So this is something that's turned on via a configuration variable, and it's something that's available in the new content experience. Then you can actually look at the completion summary within the content area and jump into the evaluation experience from there. And I'll show you what this looks like in a moment. And then finally, our focus for today is going to be actually using the Quick Eval tool, which is truly a one-stop shop for instructors to see learner submissions across all 3 core assessment tools. So let's look at Quick Eval a little bit deeper before we dive into the environment. So it really allows for a streamlined and efficient grading experience. So we know that assessment is a very time-consuming task, and Quick Eval helps to make the lives of instructors easier by allowing them to come to one spot to see every discussion, assignment, or quiz that requires their attention. And then they can easily jump into the assessment workflow to start providing feedback to learners. So where can you find Quick Eval? So you can find it, you can add it to your course navigation bar. So if your institution allows you to edit your navigation bar, you can add it there for easy access, or you can actually find it where you can find all your Brightspace tools, which is in the course admin area. We had a really exciting update to Quick Eval in May, which allows instructors to actually iterate between their list of submissions, even if the submissions are from different activity types. So before this release, instructors had to click into each submission, view the evaluation, and then click back to Quick Eval to find the next submission. But with this release, instructors are actually redirected to the next evaluation as it's listed in Quick Eval. And I'll show you how this works in the demonstration. We'll just add a quick link in the chat to the release notes if you'd like to learn more about that new update to the Quick Eval tool, if you'd like to learn more about it. And something that is also important to note about this new update to the Quick Eval is that it works when the new quiz evaluation experience is enabled. So this was actually released, the new quiz evaluation experience in September, and it was an updated look and feel to the grading workflow, and it really focuses on optimizing the productivity by making the quiz evaluation experience easier to use, and it's consistent with the experience for assignments and discussions at evaluation experience. The new quiz evaluation experience will actually be defaulted to on for everybody in the July release. And so we'll also add in a couple links in the chat if you want to learn more about the new quiz evaluation experience. And we'll also be going through this in the demonstration as well. But just if you'd like to have a little bit more insight into that, thank you for those links. All right, so now that we have a little bit of an intro of what we're going to do, we're going to dive into our demonstration and just a couple of learning objectives for our demonstration. So you'll understand how the Quick Eval tool works and how it can be used to actually assess an assignment, a discussion, and a quiz. And then we're going to actually look at the annotations tool and the assignments. We're going to learn how to add in feedback using our Brightspace editor, including video and audio note. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to use the Quick Eval homepage widget, which is a widget that can be added to your course homepage or your organizational homepage if your Brightspace administrator has configured that. And the widget just provides an at-a-glance view of any activities that require your attention. And just a note that the Quick Eval tool and the widget are only available to instructors, so learners don't have access to this tool. There's no action that needs to be taken on your end to not allow learners to see it. That's just automatically how it's done. All right, so let's take a look now. Okay, so I am logged in here in my Intro to Business course as the instructor, Regina Davis. And as I talked about before, there are multiple places that you can go to view your learner submissions and to start offering feedback on those assessments. So I can go directly into the tool. So for example, I have assignments on my navigation bar. I can go into my assignment, and then I can actually go and into that specific assignment that I want to look at and select view submissions and go specifically to evaluate my learners from here. So that's one option. The next option that I talked about was that assessments can be added inline to the content area. So I'm going to jump over into content, and we are using the new content experience here. So I just want to show you what that looks like if an assessment is actually added inline in your content area by just hopping over into this week 3 module here. So if I click on this week 3 discussion here, this discussion has been added into my content area. And if I scroll down here, I can see the description of what that discussion entails. And if I scroll down here, I can see this completion summary. So this gives me a really nice bird's eye view of the completion status of my learners. I can jump in and see what their grade is. And if I haven't evaluated them, I can actually jump in and go straight to an evaluation here if I want to go straight into that evaluation experience. I can also select this evaluate all, and I'll be able to jump into that first learner that needs an evaluation here. Here I've got a draft, and I can just use the arrows here to go to my next learner that requires an evaluation. So that's how I could go through my evaluation process through the content area. The final way I'd like to show you is by using the Quick Eval tool. And so I've added the Quick Eval tool into my navigation bar here. However, like I mentioned before, if it's not in your navigation bar, you can head over to your course admin area, and you'll find the Quick Eval tool under the assessment area. So I'll jump into it from here. All right, so Quick Eval lists, as I mentioned before, activities from assignments, quizzes, and discussions that have learner submissions. So in Quick Eval, assessments are going to remain visible until the evaluator publishes a grade and the feedback. So any assignment, discussion, or quiz, for quizzes specifically, they will only show up if they require manual grading. For example, if you have a written response question in there. So if an assignment, discussion, or quiz has at least one submission, it will show up in Quick Eval. So if you have an assignment and no one has submitted to it yet, then it doesn't require your attention, so it's not going to show up here. But if one learner does submit an assignment or contributes to a discussion thread, it's going to show up here in Quick Eval. So Quick Eval offers two different views for instructors, the activities view and the submissions view. So let's jump over to the activities view here. And as we can see, we've got a list of the different activities here that require my attention. And so, for example, I've got one new post to this week 3 discussion. I have a submission to this intro to startup funding assignment, and then 2 new attempts, for example, in this business fundamentals quiz here. I also have some icons I can hover over here as well. So evaluate all. If I select this, it's going to bring me straight to the evaluation page where I can evaluate all my learners. If I click on this submission list, I'll click on it for this intro to startup funding here. I will see a list of my learners, and I can see if they have actually provided a submission. I can see that submission here. I can see if that submission has been published and if they've read it. And if I go over to the submissions area here, this gives me more of a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of when that was submitted and the learner that submitted it here. So I'll just head back here. And then finally, the third option here is a more actions. So if I select this, I can choose to publish all. So what this, we see this being used if instructors want to publish all the feedback at once to the learners. So oftentimes if you're marking, you might want to just save as draft and then publish the feedback to all your learners at once so that they receive it at the same time. There's also an option to dismiss. So if I, for example, wanted to get rid of this intro to startup funding from my Quick Eval, I can select dismiss until, and then I can choose. So I can just dismiss it until I get another submission. I can decide on a specific date if I wanted to, or I can just select forever if I wanted to. Now, don't worry if you select forever and you see it go away. You can easily get this back. So I'll just cancel out of there because I don't want to dismiss anything. What I would do if I dismiss something and I wanted to get it back would just be clicking on this 3 dots, clicking on dismissed activities, and then I can see all the things that I've dismissed. I can just simply click on this and then click on restore and get that back in my Quick Eval area. So I'll just cancel out of there. So no worries if you dismiss something, you can always get it back. We also have a couple of filtering options in Quick Eval. So you can click on this activity name option, and then I can just search by a specific activity if I wanted to. For example, this week 3 discussion. And you also have the option to do. Actually, no, that's it for the filtering here on activity name. We do have some other options on the submission side. So let's hop over to the submissions view. So on our submissions view, the default behavior is going to show you the oldest submission at the top, and then your newest submissions are going to be at the bottom. At the bottom there. You can also use this first name and last name to sort if you wanted to as well, or you could sort it by activity name as well. Up here, we have more than one filter. So if you wanted to use activity name, again, you can sort by activity name here. And then you can also sort by date. Now, this is a really handy one, especially that's older than 7 days. That might need your attention right away. So these filters will be useful if you do have a lot that's showing up here in this Quick Eval area. All right, so let's stay in this submissions view area and let's actually jump into these assessments and start assessing them. So I'm going to start with Paulina's week 3 discussion here. So I'm just going to click on her name and it will bring me into the discussion evaluation experience. So here I can see the actual discussion post that Paulina shared. And then I'm able to actually add in some overall feedback into this area. So I'm just going to add in that overall feedback and just simply copy and paste it here. But in addition to that written feedback, which learners do enjoy, video feedback can really make the instructor feel more present to learners, really help the learners understand the guidance more on where they can improve, and it can really create a more personal, engaging learning experience. And you can add in video feedback in Brightspace using a really handy tool called the Video Note tool, where you can actually record up to 30 minutes here, and you can automatically enable closed captions to do that. So it's really simple to do. What you'll do is select this other insert options and then select the insert stuff option. Now, insert stuff has a lot of different options here for us. We're just going to focus on add video note first, and then I'll walk through a couple of the other ones. But what you'll do is select add video note. And then you also do have the option to select audio only, but we're actually going to do a video note, which we just practiced, but now it's not giving me a hard time here for, you know why it's doing that is because I'm already sharing my video with you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to turn off my video on the Zoom. And then hopefully I can make this work. I'll try again here. All right, here we go. I'm here. So what you can do is select new recording. So I'm just going to select that, and I can go ahead and start sharing my feedback here in the video note. And then when I'm done, I can select stop recording, and I can go ahead. Just going to skip by that. I'll turn my video back on over here now that we've done that. So now I can actually go and create a title for this piece of feedback. I'm actually going to title it Week 3 Discussion Feedback. And if you wanted to, you could actually, if you wanted to record, if you had a certain level that this was and you were providing maybe a couple of different types of feedback depending on the level, you could add in sort of that this is a level 3 feedback, or if it was a specifically very personalized feedback for that learner, you could add in the learner's name, for example, here. You can add in a description if you'd like, but it's not required. And then you will here now select the audio language that you were speaking. So I'm going to select English Canada, and I also want to automatically generate the captions from the audio. So once I've selected that, I can go ahead and click Next. All right, so the file is just processing right now. I can go ahead and click Insert, and it's going to render. Oh, I'm just going to move this so that I have the rest of my feedback here. And we'll just give that a moment to render here. While we're waiting for that, I want to go back into show you the rest of the options for insert stuff. But before I do that, I just want to make this full screen. Now, this is an option. Now I can see the full Brightspace editor here. So I'm going to go back into that insert stuff option, and you do have some other options here. So we just added a video note, right? I just created it right away. But if you had previously recorded something, recorded a video note, for example, you could come into your media library and actually search for it and add it in from here as well. So that's another option within Insert Stuff. You could also add in something from your computer if you wanted to provide them a link to a file or something like that. You could add in a link as well. And you also have the option to add in something from YouTube. So from here, you could actually just copy and paste the URL if you already had the URL you wanted to of the video, or you can do a quick search here and then select the video and insert it in right away. So here we go. My video is here, and I'm just going to mute it, but I'll just show you what that looks like with the closed captions. And I'm going to go ahead and exit that full screen here to show you some of the other options that we have. Down below here, if you wanted to actually upload a file, you can do that as well. Attach a link to an existing activity, you could do that here, but you also have the option to add in a quick link here. I'm going to show you that in another assessment on how to add in a quick link. But you also can add in, attach from your Google Drive or your OneDrive. So if you wanted to attach an additional file to that feedback, you could as well. And that is that area. We also are going to provide a final grade, so I can go ahead and just provide the grade there, and I can see the learner view of what that grade is going to look like. Because I have a percentage grade scheme showing here, that's what is going to show up here for the learner. And then finally, I have outcomes attached to this discussion topic. So if you're using the learning outcomes tool, you can align learning outcomes to discussion topics. And then I can go ahead and actually assess those outcomes here. And then I can actually look at that learner's progress against these outcomes within Mastery View of the gradebook. And we're going to be exploring Mastery View and grades in part 4 in our next session. So be sure to join if you're curious to learn more about that. So now that I have added in my feedback and my video note here, I'm going to go ahead and publish this. If I wanted to actually save my draft, if I didn't want to publish this yet to the learner, I could just select this option too, and then I could choose to publish this later. But I'm going to publish this now, and I can see that my evaluation has been published here. If I wanted to make any changes, I could do that and just select update, and that would automatically update and be published to them right away. Now that I have evaluated this discussion, I can go ahead at the top here and use these arrows to be automatically redirected to the next assessment I need to evaluate. So I can use my arrows here and come to this next assessment, which is actually an assignment called Intro to Startup Funding. So you'll notice that I use those arrows and I went to the next assessment, which was a different type of assessment. I went from a discussion to an assignment. Now, previously, we would actually have to click back to Quick Eval and jump into this different assessment. But with the new update to Quick Eval, it makes it really simple for me to automatically be redirected to the next thing that I need to look at. So here I've got my assignment from Harrison. I can actually click into this. He's attached a document and I can see that document here live. And let's look at the annotations tool. So it's really neat. We can actually add annotations onto this assignment, and then the learner can see that afterwards. So if I select this little drop down arrow here, I have a couple of options. I can actually draw right on the page if I wanted to, do a free form highlight. In this case, I'm just going to do a text highlighter. And I'm just going to grab a sentence here. Which is right here. They often bring mentorship and valuable business connections in addition to funding. So I've highlighted some text, and now I actually want to add a note here for my learner to provide them with some feedback. So I have a couple of different icons that I can use. I'm going to use this little comment one, and then I'll just click on my page where I want that to go. And then I'm just going to add in my text here of what I want that to say. And then I can just click away from it. And then the learner, if you hover over it, you'll be able to see what you said there. If you need to edit it, you can just go back in and edit it here. And then if you wanted to get rid of it, you'll just simply click on it and click on this garbage bin here. So it's really easy to get rid of things if you make a mistake there. Another thing that you could do on this page is, for example, I can add in another type of icon. For example, this star, I really like this personal reflection and I want to make it a different color, so I can make it green, and then I can add a note there as well to provide some feedback on that reflection here. So the annotations tool is really handy. This feedback is so important for learners, and this way it never gets lost and can be always documented for future learning and for the learner to refer back to afterwards. So those are a couple of things that you can do within the annotations tool. Moving over to the right-hand side here, you'll notice that we have a rubric that has been attached to this assignment. So if you have a rubric added to an assignment, it's going to appear here, and you can go ahead and actually open that up and assess it here. Now, this is a points-based rubric. You'll see that I have some points aligned to this. So after I assess it, a grade is actually going to be automatically formulated for me. And you'll see again that I've got some, as I hover over, I have my indicator and what that criterion actually is for me to see as the instructor. And then I've also added some feedback here. So the learner's automatically going to get that feedback once they see this rubric and how it's been assessed. So I'm going to just go ahead and select those pieces of feedback here in my rubric, and then I'm given an overall score here and the points that have been aligned, that overall score for the rubric, and then it's going to provide me with an overall grade here. So that is what the learner is going to see. Now, something neat about the rubrics tool is that if I wanted to, if I knew that Harrison, for example, was all level 4s across the board, I could actually set it to automatically set this all to level 4, so I don't have to select each one individually. In this case, I had him at level 3, so this wasn't appropriate, but I could do that if I wanted to speed things up. And I could also set him to needs improvement, which would be sort of my lowest one if I wanted to. And then you can also really easily clear those selections too if you wanted to make changes. So that's one of the updates to our rubrics tool, which is really neat. Speeds up the process for assessment. And another thing you'll notice is that when I hover over these different rubric criteria, there's been outcomes aligned to those rubric criterion. So at the bottom here, once I've assessed that rubric, you'll notice that those outcomes have been automatically assessed for me. So I didn't actually have to go and manually select those levels here. Those have been selected based on what I've selected in the rubric. So again, another way to speed up that process here and just really streamline that assessment process here. So now that we've looked at the annotations tool, we've evaluated the rubric, and the rubric has given us an automatic overall grade, I can also add in my overall feedback here. And again, we've got that Brightspace editor, which we can open up again. We have lots of different options as well. And what I'm going to do again is just copy and paste my text here, a little bit of my text feedback, but we're going to add in some more details here as well. So in my feedback here, I've recommended that the learner reviews a module in my content area. And I want to actually direct them straight to this piece of content so that I don't have to worry about them not finding it and just make it really easy for them. So what I can do is I can highlight this and I can select this insert quick link option. And now it's going to give me all the different options of areas that I can link them to within my course materials. In this case, I'm going to lead them to the content area. And I believe the area that I want them to go in is week 3. And I want to bring them to this budgeting matters topic here. So as you can see now, when the learner clicks on this, it's going to bring them directly to that, that content module. Let's jump back into the insert stuff area. Now we looked at how you could create a video note live, but what if you've already created some video feedback and you want to just add it in here? So I can go to my media library and I've actually already recorded some next steps for level 3 learners. So I can just actually go and add that in here automatically, and I've already added those closed captions, so those are already there. And I can go ahead and insert that so that the learner also has that, that video feedback in addition to the written. All right. There are lots of other options up here within the Brightspace editor. So if you wanted to insert an image, you have the option to do that from your computer. You also have those other options within the insert stuff area that we talked about before. And then you also, of course, have some tools in terms of if you wanted to change the color of the text or bold something, you do have those options, or even add in bullets and formatting options. So you do have that option over here and to change the font type and things like that as well. Um, so let's exit that full screen here as well. And now that we're done with that assignment, providing feedback, again, I can select publish here and publish that to Harrison. All right, so we've looked at a discussion. You might have noticed that once we went over to this assignment, it looked very similar. That's because we are making our evaluation experience is consistent with each other so that it's easy for instructors to use. So I'm just going to skip past this one. I've already started evaluating Faith, and I want to start at a fresh one. Oh, okay, perfect. So now we are at a quiz. So this is the business fundamentals quiz for Paulina. And so what you are seeing right now is the new quiz evaluation experience. So again, looks very similar to what we just saw in the assignments and discussions. And now the new quiz evaluation experience models that same interface so that it's consistent and easy to use. So I'll just walk through some of the features of the new quiz evaluation experience as we go through this, if it's not something that's familiar to you yet. So at the very top, we'll see the learner's name, and we actually also have the option to toggle between attempts. So if Paulina had more than one attempt here, I could look at attempt 2 or 3. Here she just has the one attempt here. And then underneath, I have the details on when it was written, and if there was any time limits that were involved in the quiz, I would see them here. In this case, there was no time limit. And then the event log just provides a little bit more detail for the instructor if needed, just to see if you wanted to see sort of how long they spent on a question, when it was saved, and so on and so forth. So just a couple more details if you wanted to look in that event log here. Now, as I scroll down the page, I can see the quiz results, and you can see that the learner's name, so Paulina's name as I scroll here, is still staying at the top. Now, this is really handy so that instructors don't lose track of who you're assessing as you're reviewing each question. So if I scroll back up here, I have a filtering option. This allows instructors to really quickly find those quiz questions that might be pending evaluation, for example. So in this case, I do have a written response question that requires my attention. And you'll notice that even though we just came in here for the first time, there's already this attempt grade that's been created. And that's because the rest of the questions in this quiz are auto-graded. So this is their grade right now, but it's just waiting for me to assess this other question so that we can have a final grade with all the questions involved. So here we have our written response question, and I have the option here to click this pop out. Now, what this is going to do is provide me with Paulina's response here, which is this area here. And this allows the instructor to be able to see this response here and evaluate using the rubric at the same time so that you could perhaps have them on 2 different screens. So I'm just going to move this over onto my other screen so I can see it. And then what I'll do is actually open up this rubric here. And so now I have this written response, this rubric for my written response question, and I can actually use this again to evaluate Paulina based on her response to this question. So again, just like we looked at before, when we hover over the rubric, I can see that descriptor underneath. And because this is a points-based rubric, I have an overall score that has been populated for me that we can see here. And then this is showing me the score on the question. So the question was worth 8 points, and it's giving her a score of 6.5 out of 8 based on how that rubric was evaluated here. So now you'll see that attempt grade has changed. And now that signifies her grade for all of the questions within this quiz. Again, we do have outcomes aligned to this rubric, so you can hover over and see the outcomes here as well. So I'm just going to go and uncheck that pending evaluation option. So now I can see all my quiz questions again. And once I've evaluated the rubric, I can also add in attempt feedback in this very similar box to what you just saw in our assignment and discussion option to provide feedback. And this is different than the legacy quiz evaluation experience. And the attempt feedback box being on the side here is really handy because I can actually add feedback as I continue to scroll down and look at how the learner responded to these questions. So for example, I want to add a little piece of feedback here in terms of how Paulina responded to that written response question. But as I scroll down and I look at her responses for the other questions here, I can see, for example, she struggled with this question 8. So I want to add in some feedback for this question as well. So I can go ahead and add that feedback in. And with this feedback box being on the side here, this is really handy because I don't have to keep scrolling up and down to look at the question and then provide the feedback as well. So finally, on the right-hand side here, we have a couple of other evaluation options under these 3 dots. So this makes it really simple. As the instructor, I could jump into the editing experience. So if I notice something here, I could just jump in to edit the quiz. I can preview the quiz to see what this looks like as the learner would view it. I can reset the evaluation, so I can discard any changes that I've made in evaluating the attempt if I'd like to. And then the event log here is to review a list of the actions taken by the user during the quiz attempt. If you wanted to look at more details, which is what we looked at before. And then if you wanted to, you have the option to hide the learner view of the grade. So if you've applied a grade scheme to your course, you can view that grade scheme as you enter a grade on a specific quiz attempt. So this helps in understanding what your entered grade will look like for the learner viewing their grade with the grade scheme applied. So here in this case, it's a percentage grade scheme. So this is what the learner is going to see. And we're going to take a look at the learner perspective in a moment at the end after we've looked at the instructor view as well to see what they see. So again, you'll notice that if we keep scrolling down here, because these outcomes were aligned in my rubric, once I evaluated the rubric, I'm able to, these outcomes were automatically assessed, and I could go and look at how the learner is doing with regards to these outcomes in mastery view, which we're not going to get into today, but just wanted to call that out. So now that I'm done here, I am going to just select publish. All right. So now that we've looked at how to provide feedback to all 3 assessment types, the last thing I'd like to showcase here is the Quick Eval widget on the home page of this course. So if I click on back to Quick Eval here, you'll just notice that we have way less things here than we saw before because those have now been cleared. We've evaluated them. And so what we're looking at right now is the Quick Eval tool that we looked at either from course admin or using the Quick Eval widget on our nav bar. But I'm just going to go back to the home page of my course. And on this course, I've actually added the Quick Eval widget. Now, this is only visible to the instructor in the course. And this just provides a quick overview, if you'd like, of the outstanding activities that require your attention in the course. So it allows me to see if I have new submissions. And then if I select this view all activities, it's just going to bring me back to the Quick Eval tool at the course level here. So which is what we saw before. Now I'm just going to jump back into this 3 dots here. Now we looked at this dismissed activity. So if you dismiss something, you can get them back by heading here. But the next thing I just want to show you is multi-course Quick Eval. So what this does is when I click on this, you'll notice that I'm no longer in my Intro to Business course. You don't see the name of the course up here. But what this allows me to do now as Regina, the instructor, is see my quick eval for any of the courses that I'm teaching. So in this case, Regina actually does teach another course, but she doesn't have anything to assess here. But if she did, it would show up with the title of the course and then the assessments underneath here. So that is another option that you can use as an instructor if you want to see anything outstanding for any course that you're teaching. So if you head over to the submissions view, you can actually use the filter now, and you'll notice a new filter by course. So she has this Intro to Business course, and perhaps this is the only course that she has, but she could select another course and see what she has from there as well, or activity name as well as an option here too. And back to the activities view, we have very similar to what we saw before. So you could look by activity name or the specific course. Oh, here we go. She has this other course here. But in this course, she doesn't have anything that's outstanding. So that's what that would look like for that. All right, so let's jump over to the learner perspective and show you that for a couple of minutes. So I am going to jump over here. Now I am logged in as Paulina Emery, and I just want to call out something. If you're using the new content experience, then you might notice that some things have changed here. So just something that's really neat that just came out. In our most recent July release is that learners can now track completion of their content topics within a module by viewing this progress indicator. So you'll just notice a couple of sort of additional icons that you didn't see before. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we have a link to the release notes if you'd like to learn more that we can pop in the chat for you to learn more. But our focus right now is just going to be looking at what this looks like for the learner's perspective. So let's jump into week 3, and we evaluated Paulina's discussion for her week 3 discussion. So just like we saw with the instructor view before when we were looking at those assessment activities within content, the learner view looks really similar at the top. So we see that activity instructions, and then at the bottom, instead of seeing this completion summary that we saw for the instructor, we see this My Work area. And Paulina can see her overall feedback here. She can actually jump in to open that discussion, to see that discussion post. But let's click into that full evaluation so she can see her feedback on there. So here we are. Here's the feedback that we provided, her grade, that video note that she can see. And then here is the actual rest of the discussion post if she wanted to look at that as well. So she gets a really great view of that, and she can go directly to that if you wanted to by just clicking on this feedback. That'll bring her right to that My Work area. Let's look at what this looks like for an assignment. This financing a business assignment, she previously did this one. We didn't look at this one today, but this is one that she's already done. So again, she can see her overall grade and jump right to that feedback area here. And then again, look at that full evaluation here. So here's the overall feedback that was provided. Again, video note. And then here's the rubric. So this is what it would look like if you had a rubric attached and assessed. So she can see how she did against those the rubric criterion and that automatic feedback that was given here too. Again, she can hover over here to see what outcomes have been aligned to that rubric criterion as well. So she gets a really good view, an idea on how she did and where she can improve by using this rubric, and then again, how she did according to those outcomes that were attached. And then she can also look at that inline feedback that we provided. So I know we gave feedback to another learner, but it would be the exact same. She can click on View Inline Feedback, and then it's going to pull up her assessment that she submitted. And then she can go ahead and view any notes that were added on her assignment. So that's what it would look like for her to see that feedback here, that inline feedback. And then finally, let's look at the business fundamentals quiz that we just assessed when she had that written response question. Now, Paulina could go straight to the quizzes tool, and she could go to this business fundamentals quiz and look at her feedback on attempt. And she could go and look at that attempt straight from here. So that's one option for her, going straight to the quizzing tool, seeing her attempt score, her attempt feedback, and then her answers to those questions and how she was assessed on that written response question with the rubric, and then all of her responses based on that. But there's somewhere else that Paulina can go to actually see her feedback, and that is in the grades tool. So this is a new release from April, actually, where learners can actually view their quiz feedback in the grades tool. So this is really useful as a learner to be able to access all of your feedback in sort of one centralized spots. We know that learners are often going straight to the grades tool, so this ensures that they can see their quiz feedback as well within this one area. So let's go to look at her feedback here, and it was the business fundamentals quiz, which is here. Again, we can see what because of the grade scheme that is percentage, she can see her percentage, and then she can select that view quiz attempts here and come back to the same page that we saw before, but she doesn't need to go into the quizzing tool. She can access it straight from grades. So this is really, really handy. And you can see, again, how that looks in line with her other assessments that she's had feedback on. So her discussions, and we've got that video in line there, and then she's got her quizzes here and anything else as well. So that's what that looks like for the learners. All right. Let's jump back over to our deck here. And just a quick review of what we went over. So I'll skip over that. And just a couple of quick things that we want to tell you about before we jump into our discussion and have some time for some questions. So you probably heard us talk about our Champions program if you've attended one of our Bright Ideas webinars before. So it's a really great opportunity to receive points for attending webinars or submitting blog posts or and lots of different things like that. So you can then redeem points that you get for additional D2L services and gift cards and things like that. So we'll put a link in the chat for you to sign up to be a D2L champion. We'd love to hear your story and have you join us there. Again, we talked about this at the beginning, but the higher education faculty community group is an amazing way to connect with individuals at other institutions that are using Brightspace. So asking questions and posting in discussions and getting new ideas on how to use Brightspace. Again, you can use the QR code to join us, and we'll also put the link again in the chat for you to join that group. Our next Bright Ideas webinar is going to be in August, and it's going to be on evaluation in Brightspace. So we'll put the link in the chat if you want to join us for that August session. And then we're really excited. We have a whole new set of Bright Ideas webinars for starting in September. So here's a quick sneak peek at the topics for the webinars that we have coming up. And then we also have a link for you to register for those if you want to register for those right now. And another link if you want to look at the descriptions in a little bit more detail as well. You can visit the community in our Bright Ideas landing page to look at those in a bit more detail. All right, so we'll jump into our discussion now, just to continue our conversation. We have a couple of questions up here about sort of what types of feedback do you find most effective for learner engagement. We'd love to hear any success stories or best practices on how you use some of the tools that we've talked about today. And I know a lot of you were new to Quick Eval, so would love to learn more about if you find that tool useful and how you might use it. So feel free to jump into the chat to participate, or you can also raise your hand and we can unmute you if you want to ask a question or share something live.